All right. The future is bright, y'all. Hello and welcome to the return of the Virginia Solar Summit live stream in limited edition. We had a lot of fun virtually through the pandemic. We did a virtual Virginia Solar Summit. I know a lot of y'all plugged in for that. And we're back a month before the 2025 Virginia Solar Summit's return to the magnificent Marriott Hotel in downtown Richmond, Virginia, for another solar and land use love fest. We can't get enough of this stuff. Our focus is on ground mounted solar of all types and stripes. We love the Brightfield redevelopment. And I'm an old dirt lawyer, just trying to get everything I can out of every square foot for everybody, including the bees and the butterflies. And today, we're going to just have a whirlwind tour kind of around the world from a view of Virginia, though. And have a lot of fun if we can with economics. Around the world of recent agrivoltaics achievements is our title, although we're going to get to that last, actually. And we're going to begin with Virginia's place in the new global energy race. Again, my name is Dan French. I'm the executive producer of the Virginia Solar Summit and other summits and other things. They made me make a bio slide. I'll come back to that. But this is today's roadmap. We're going to start with this introduction and a little preview of the 2025 Virginia Solar Summit and some of the other action happening. A lot of our cousins and friends in Greater Virginia doing this important work. Then we're going to get into our triple emergencies, the rural emergency. Actually, we're going to start with the energy emergency, then the rural emergency, then the agricultural emergency, and we're going to get into trying to develop maybe some answers, one of which we call agrivoltaics, and maybe even look ahead to some kind of new agrivoltaics playbook. Really looking forward to a big show again this year. We're uncommonly interdisciplinary, being a solar and land use show. We get a lot of big brains, and it's not just a trade show. We do a lot of that hard brainstorming and troubleshooting. We're known for that. We love that. We lean in. We try to find the sticky wickets. We try to develop the best practices, and we get a lot of the industry's best folks to help us do that. And I would also say, just to brag on us and our community a little bit, it's uncommonly collaborative as well. So you'll all feel right at home, no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, at the Virginia Solar Summit and in Virginia, by the way. It's a great state. Here we are, 2025 Virginia Solar Summit. Again, we're focused keenly on solar energy, economic development, and land stewardship, that whole recipe there. For me, I think about it like an algorithm, and we're very proud to be co-hosted again this year by the Virginia Department of Energy. And for the first time, brought on as co-host this year, the American Solar Grazing Association, founded by Farmers of Farmers First organization. And we're really going to be leaning all the way into this kind of next level, a whole new phase of solar development and thinking about everything that's possible under the panels. And no one knows that better, of course, than ASGA, who is one of the first and one of the best and blazing the trail with a network of solar grazers from around the country and indeed around the world. So I hope you'll find us for a lot more of this. If you like what you see today, it's kind of a preview and a substantive run through, a primer. We're really going to be digging in and rolling up the sleeves with, frankly, some of the best practitioners in the world doing this stuff. They're on stage in Virginia, and you can talk to them yourselves. April 28, 29, and 30. And that April 28th, Monday night, we're getting started with the film premiere from ASGA. And it's kind of an unofficial agrivoltaics day. But this week, you can check out, go over to solargrazing.com. ASGA's got an awesome webinar with a branch chief from USDA, and they're going to be kind of going through some of these numbers, and you can see, some of what I'll show you later for yourselves. They have a new survey out. Thought to add that, but I'm already going to punish y'all today with over 100 slides, and I can't do it all. So we are very proud this year to be brought to you by Nevados. Speaking of leveling up, so trackers, if you're not a solar person, is kind of changing the game. We're changing the game in a big way. And Nevados has this game-changing all-terrain tracker, so we can go on hillsides. We can do with a lot less grading. And Governor Youngkin gave Nevados a Environmental Excellence Award last year, the gold medal. You can find the Governor's Environmental Excellence Awards coming to Lexington this month, real soon. Conference season's in full swing. This will be the 35th annual Environment Symposium, Virginia Environment Symposium. where leaders meet. DEQ, a host, DCR, a lot of great organizations. This is a really good one. Hundreds of people attend, and pretty cool to see. Our friends at DEQ also have a Virginia Brownfield Symposium coming up this month, or next month. I guess it's still March 31st, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I'm already in tomorrow. April Fools in Hopewell. This is always a great show. There'll be solar at this show, bright fields, but all things redevelopment at the DEQ Brownfield Symposium. And then the Solar Working Group of Southwest Virginia, who's featured many times at the Virginia Solar Summit, done a lot of incredible work, put together a playbook of their own that y'all should go find for communities. And they have, I think this is the first time they've done this, the Southwest Virginia Solar Summit. Part educational, part fun. Come, it's free. There's things for all ages. Really encourage y'all to get down to Southwest Virginia at Carl Smith Stadium and check this out. In May, later this summer, is the Big Brownfield Show. EPA and ICMA, they're co-hosting, teaming up again for the National Brownfields Conference. This is the biggest, best brownfield conference in the world. You've seen me there. Our cousins from DEQ will be there. Go to gobrownfields.org. There'll be a lot of solar, but a lot of other things kind of in this nexus of land use and technological renaissance, including the Solar Farm Summit. Breaking news, the 2025 Solar Farm Summit is co-locating with the National Brownfields Training Conference. So one giant land use love fest on the Chicago Lakeshore. Brownfields, agrivoltaics, and a lot more. We're throwing the kitchen sink at everything we can to spark a resurgence in rural America again. So this August, big things happening in Chicago. There's 2 airports. You can drive there. McCormick Place, the largest convention center in North America. And that's actually it right there, that building where we will be on the lakeshore. Check it. Learn more, solarfarmsummit.com. Just after that, if you can't make it to the big shows, our friends in West Virginia, they're doing their West Virginia Brownfield Conference again. And Main Street, they do a lot of great work in West Virginia and kind of beyond, a tab provider. So if you're in Virginia, you can work with the West Virginia tab program on your brownfield. And they do their own conference. Great time of year too to get over to Morgantown, West Virginia for some brownfields. Okay, and then our dear cousins at the Virginia Clean Energy Summit, they have their big show coming up. You know, we were founded the same year. We go in off seasons. We lead in the spring and they follow up in the fall. And they're loading for another really big one at the Greater Richmond Convention Center, September 30 through October there. And we'll see where we're at then, y'all, and be picking up the pieces. And they're similar overlap. A lot of the same folks, probably some of y'all on the webinar, but they take a slightly more broad and deliberate view across the entire landscape of clean energy. And the folks who put that on, the Virginia Renewable Energy Alliance, they have a great and free kind of webinar coming up. We just wrapped the Virginia legislative session. As y'all know, the governor has put the pen down. They're coming back. But for the latest and greatest, plug in April 23rd at noon. And Neil Cosby and the esteemed panel you see there, all big brains, trying to stay on top of this. Speaking of staying on top, energize your inbox. Did you know Virginia Energy has a newsletter? You should subscribe to that. And did you know Virginia has a new clean energy innovation bank? You should definitely check that out. And I'm guessing some of y'all should maybe think about applying to that. So you can come back. This is live streaming, and we'll put this up, but you can definitely Google for this, capture the QR code on the screen right now, and check, or come to the Virginia Solar Summit and check out the feature session starring the Innovation Bank. Okay, disclaimer time. Excuse me, I'm still drinking coffee. So everything from here on in, or everything, is my own opinion and my own analysis. I am not an employee of the state of Virginia, nor have I ever been. I am the executive producer of the Virginia Solar Summit, but that's not my full-time job. I'm not even really a solar guy. I spend less than 50% of my time on solar. I'm kind of a macro analyst, and I'm going to be sneaking in a lot of that work. They made me do this. I try to be shy. You don't. My name's not on the website and all this. I'm kind of a ghost strategist in a certain kind of way, but this is me. I practice something called functionalism. I live in that nexus of energy, economy, and environment, trying to sustain the 8 billion people on the planet. DB Foresights is my little macro advisory practice where I have a global clientele, less and less so. Kind of semi-retired. I used to be a lawyer. I was in-house at BP when we blew up the Gulf, as folks who've been on the show have heard me tell. But I went to law school. I actually got a master's of law. Globalization was pretty a big deal at the time. But economist, technologist, macro strategist, which really just means I'm interdisciplinary and I have to read everything. And a little soft background on me. I'm from rural communities. I graduated with about less than 80 people. Farm in Coal Town, and a farm kid slash laborer. So baled a lot of hay, shoveled a lot of excrement. But I would probably more. I'm not really a farmer though. I'd more characterize myself as a gardener and definitely a fisherman. But vocationally, I'm really a strategist for strategists. So, a lot of my work gets filtered into the work of others. You're probably more familiar with that, but interdisciplinary by discipline. And really, my background is all industrial and commercial work. So I mentioned I was in-house at BP, but I've worked on pretty much everything up and down the industrial chain, oil and gas, chemicals, factories, manufacturing. I've done Superfund sites, dealt with nuclear waste, military bases, pretty much an all-in person, and also I'll say nonpartisan. So not a Democrat, not a Republican, and quite happy living right in between. I'm a patriot, America first, but of course we're all in this together in this uh, planet in a bottle. And just this is really why they convinced me to do this slide. It's important for me to mention I'm not actually in the solar business myself. Beyond the conferences, which don't make money, and some advisory in this larger work, I'm not a solar developer, and I don't have any direct stakes in any solar projects. And so I'm really trying to approach this kind of as neutrally as I can, and I guess it's up to you whether you believe me or not. But a lot of the analysis that will follow, we hope, is rigorously objective. Final warning is we're going to get sensitive about halfway through. We're going to start with the energy emergency, which should be pretty safe swimming for all. But it's a pretty hard time in rural America right now. I have friends struggling, and farm communities are really struggling, and we are going to get into some sensitive topics as we explore our collective emergency. And if you are struggling, please do reach out. Someone's been there before, and I think right now, more than ever, folks will listen. So hit some of these numbers or pass this to a friend. All right, happier days, unleashing energy dominance. It's a kind of a cornucopia of abundance. We have growth problems, growing pains. I think we'll see maybe that's really in the background of our energy emergency, which President Trump formalized in this executive order, as you see here, in one of the very first things that he did. Part of the reason is price. So here's residential prices quite high. Nobody likes that. Those are nominal terms, though. Adjusting for inflation, we'll see through the pandemic, we had some of the highest electricity price inflation in decades. There at the tail end, over 15%, which was the highest at the time since 1981. Adjusting for inflation, it was one of the biggest jumps of all time. And in fact, US consumers had never spent more on energy as they were in the pandemic. Coming out of it, we can see some updated charts here. This is just from January. Wholesale prices have certainly backed off, and nominal prices have been subdued depending on where you are. But real prices, unfortunately, for residential customers is sticky. On average, though, right? So we have a somewhat fragmented electricity market, and you can see here from our friends at EIA, kind of depending on where you are, is what you're going to pay. In Virginia, we're kind of lucky to be below average. Just some numbers from recently in December. Unless you're a big industrial user, you may be paying a little bit less than the national average. We've been able to do that, kind of riding on the fracking boom, the return of American energy dominance a decade ago, and the first Trump administration, and prior to that even, especially natural gas, which was a brand new story. We were importing natural gas, and now, of course, we're exporting. But this is from the U.S. Energy Atlas, and I see we're missing a period there, but this is Virginia's energy mix, and maybe a little out of date, but roughly, 55% or so of Virginia's energy is coming from natural gas. Fortunate to have a lot of nuclear power, too. which is pretty clean. And you can see the others there. And that's a fun interactive map that you can find. That shift to natural gas is kind of what has run coal out of business and brought emissions way down. So this is something a lot of folks are wanting to see. You may not like the natural gas, but some of the results are working on Mother Earth's bottom line. Natural gas is something Virginia has within the Commonwealth, but we used to have more. And most of this is actually coal field natural gas, and it's in terminal decline. The fracking boom has mostly missed us, which we'll come back to. It hasn't been a problem so far because the United States just experienced the biggest oil and gas boom of all time. So this came out 8 years ago, I suppose, about 2017, and by then we were just about to catch up to Saudi Arabia and pass them. And then where the star is in year 7 of the fracking boom, we were looking ahead and saying, oh, I think by 2025, year 15, we'll maybe be at 9 million barrels a day. And of course, you can see we might hit 13.5 million barrels. In 2023, we hit 12.9 million barrels. And so prices have benefited. That's what it looks like from space, real supply boom, from nothing to visible interstellar. And we became a net natural gas exporter very quickly thereafter. So the fracking boom came on, and before the Obama administration left office, we had built some LNG export terminals, and we were exporting. Okay, I'm going to make full use of the time today. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I'll try to get back to them, and I'll stay for overtime. Demand boom. If you've been to the show last year, you heard me yelling about 700 watts per chip. We'll come back to that. But it actually began with this guy, as you probably know. The electrification of everything and EVs started an EV race, started a battery race. And so the Department of Energy was, 4, 5, 6 years ago, started this work, what became the Solar Future Study, doing some what was considered to be at the time some very aggressive forecasting because electricity demand had been flat for the last couple decades. And then all this new sources of demand came on and aggressive growth in EVs. And so they put these scenarios together. And the most aggressive we'd see that 2% annual growth that you see there and get up to somewhere, 6.7 terawatts in the decarb E scenario. So where a lot of the transit started to electrify. And this, of course, though, is before AI. So what about that? Well, we'll get back to that. There he is, Jensen Huang. I forget how you say it. Sorry, Jensen. Big respect, though. This guy's changed everything. CEO of NVIDIA, and it is 700 watts per chip, although that's the new chip from his most recent presentation and led to, one of the biggest capital mobilizations of all time. In Virginia, we've certainly benefited, even coming into this, right? Dominated in data centers, Northern Virginia, tippy top. But if you scroll down the screen, you'll notice Southern Virginia on its own is about halfway down. So Virginia is truly dominant in global data centers. They are clustering mostly in the north, as you see. This is from the JLARC report. But there's some big ones down south as well. This is the most recent report from Prince William County. Sorry, there's no date on this, but bottom line, there's a lot more in the queue, millions and millions of square feet. That's what it looks like on the left, and it's causing sudden and dramatic forecast revisions on the right. So Grid Strategies put this together, but within a year, we've seen historic demand be put in the forecast. Again, JLARC did their own analysis, and unconstrained demand scenarios, we could be talking about tripling our energy needs. This is from Dominion Energy's most recent, I think their most recent quarterly report, or the previous one anyway. Slide 18, there it is. They had called forward demand, and so there was kind of a rush to the queue, and they revised up their numbers, which was rather shocking. Almost 20 gigawatts from their July 2024 forecast. But again, some of that is kind of paperwork. But Dan, what about DeepSeek? Hasn't the bottom dropped out? Aren't data centers a bubble? Isn't it going to pop? And surely we'll find More conservation technology, as has always happened. I think one of the great stories of the last 40 and 50 years is on the conservation branches of the technology tree. We've saved a lot of electrons. Kilowatt saved is a kilowatt earned. I don't think so. It's not my sense. I work with funds and investors, and there seems to be a lot of applications, and they're coming very soon and hot. And I think the cheaper it gets, just the faster the adoption will be, and it could take years and in fact decades before it fully plays out. More importantly, beyond AI, and I don't want to get too esoteric here in the history of the Industrial Revolution, but we've seen this kind of larger sweeping trend from animals to machinery to molecules to now electrons. And you'll hear whispers, and you can find Wall Street analysts and reports talking about this shift from molecules to electrons. It's AI, it's the robots that are coming next, it's the drones that are here now, all those EVs. But it could be a lot of other things. Even right now, if you look closely at industrial facilities being built today, they're trying to use as much electricity as they can over molecules. You can generate them on site, and just again, even subatomically, there's less friction. So electrons just work a lot better. Well, Virginia's using a lot of electrons. We know that now. This is a recent report. We are now the number one importing state. Pennsylvania, our good neighbor nearby, is sending us a lot, and we're putting it to good use, powering the data centers of the world. But very unfortunately, I guess, surpassing California, which is importing a lot less electricity because it's been developing and developing particularly its residential solar markets. So we've been riding on this cheap natural gas, which is great. But as you'll notice here, this most recent report, March 26th, price is up now $4.22. They were about $2 not so long ago. So is this the end of the beginning of the American natural gas story? Probably so. There's a new phase of the global energy race breaking out. And you've seen a lot of that just in recent months with various dignitaries making their way to the White House to ink new LNG export deals. This is Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba from Japan, and he's been followed by South Korea and Poland and many other nations. The Biden administration had actually put in some export restrictions, which will be lifted, and that is to take our cheap and abundant U.S. natural gas to global markets. So the entire rest of the world is paying a lot more, and this obviously creates a huge financial incentive to take U.S. natural gas to market. We became the net exporter as soon as we started to build the stuff, basically. And you can see the arrow I mentioned on the previous chart when we became a net natural gas exporter, and there it is. And we've built a lot more export capacity ever since. So now we're actually the number one natural gas exporter in the whole world, bigger than Russia, which that was their game for most of the last 100 years. And there's a lot more export capacity and import capacity where it's being produced and where it's being imported. And you can see that as well. Again, these things are in the queue, not a projection, not looking at permits, which we can, but these facilities here, as you see in North America, are being constructed. And so these are the real pivots, and a lot of planning is being done in boardrooms and decision-making around the forecast that you see right here in 2026 and 2027 and beyond. At CERAWeek, very recently, Mr. John Ketchum here, the CEO of NextEra, who's built more natural gas probably than anyone in recent decades, had some interesting things to say, pointing out that as recently as 2022, they were building natural gas turbines at 785 per kilowatt. Today, more than triple. So today, if you want to price that out, it's more like $2,400 per kilowatt. And you're going to have to get in line, he mentioned. So if you want to make it happen today, you're probably going to be waiting into the 2030s because, again, the North American natural gas story is maturing, and everybody's getting in line now. What else can we do? This is a recent report from IEA. We need power. We need it now. There are other options besides natural gas, and depending on who you are and where you are, you can build it faster. China, of course, builds the fastest. The the United States, particularly high voltage lines, we take a very long time to build transmission. That would solve a lot of our problems, certainly. But as you can see here, everybody can build solar and wind a lot cheaper than some of the other things. And the money is certainly flowing that way. This on the left, you'll see, investment growing in those things that are fast and cheap, in grid technology, electrified transit, storage, and renewables. On the right, some of the newer stuff, which I support, fusion, SMRs, we're going to need it all. I think there's interesting hydrogen applications, but that has seen a decline in investment actually last year in 2024. Part of the reason for that is because of experience. Nuclear, just to pick on it, fairly or unfairly, I apologize. It sometimes, often takes longer and costs more. And so again, the money has just put a big box around what we know works and is here right now, and that's these solar, wind, and storage combinations. No surprise, it's accounting for most of the capacity additions that we have seen. Solar and batteries in particular, really just kind of running away with it. Plug and play. It's cheap, and here it is. Bloomberg NEF. This is the most recent levelized cost of energy chart. And batteries are coming way down. Offshore wind, as we know in Virginia, is still seeing breakthroughs as it becomes a mature industry. And even fixed access tilt continues to improve and improve. As you can see here, right, they're getting more efficient and cheaper kind of at the same time. And we've been investing a lot in domestic manufacturing capacity. Woods Mackenzie and SIA here, as you'll see, they've been tracking very closely. And as of right now, the United States has about 50 gigawatts of American solar module manufacturing, which is just about enough to meet all of our domestic development demand. A lot of that this year is going to find its way to Texas. 1/3 of all the solar in the United States this year could be developed in Texas, with Indiana catching up. You got a lot of natural gas down in Texas too. But of course, not everywhere. Some folks are not into building things, or at least not in their backyard. So NIMBYism is on the rise, not in Texas, but in Virginia. As you all may have seen, University of Virginia put this chart together with some data, I think, from our friends at Virginia Energy. And for the first time last year, solar projects were rejected or withdrawn more than they were approved, or almost. Merrick, an action group who's rallying on these issues, is kind of tallied it up. And it turns out that Texas this year will develop 3 times as much solar as Virginia has rejected in the last 18 months. So it's getting harder in Virginia, while Texas is running wild. And there's a lot of reasons for that beyond the scope of this call. But Merrick put together this slide, and it is kind of this patchwork of approvals. And if anyone is following the legislative session in Virginia, you may know that we didn't really develop any citing answers in this legislative session. And so, we're still going to go project by project and community by community. And some folks maybe think that's the way that it should be. But the danger in where we are in this moment is we've kind of gone from NIMBYs to banana. There's a lot of intense pushback against solar, but there's actually, as a across the board guy, I've noticed there's a lot of intense pushback against everything. And pipelines in Virginia, any kind of infrastructure, data centers. So getting very tough to build at a time when we're already kind of built into a corner. So I think that's kind of the problem, but also the opportunity. Instead of saying no to everything, maybe we should find ways to say yes to some things. Okay, now we're moving in maybe to some more sensitive, as sad as that may be, we're moving into maybe some more touchy subjects, or certainly some data. And I know it's a sensitive time for a lot of folks, particularly in our farming communities. And again, I encourage you to reach out. And the Virginia Farm Bureau has this amazing agri-stress hotline. You can hit this number here and reach out to them. I know that they're always listening. This is the Distressed Communities Index. It's updated routinely, and it's got county by county data. And you can see that it's, the United States is kind of a tale of 2 cities, or 2 counties at least, where a lot of the jobs, a lot of the economic activity since the crash has clustered in the cities. and in dense places, while our less dense and rural places have really been left with everything else. And in fact, a lot of distressed communities have experienced net zero business formation since the dot-com crash, which is rather shocking. And these are actually large numbers. So you're thinking, oh, these are the far-flung places. This is flyover county that nobody cares about. Not really. It's about 1/3 of America is living in these communities or on the edge of becoming a distressed community. And so it's quite a problem at scale. As an old brownfield guy, I care about health impacts and sensitive receptors, and I'll just flash this very quickly. Cancer clusters. This is a deaths of despair geography. It's a visualization created by the folks there at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. It came out of this U.S. congressional effort. And this data is a little dated, but you can go find this yourselves. And what we're seeing is this explosion of despair related of deaths, frankly, and suicides are unfortunately at generational highs, going all the way back to the high anxiety of World War II. Here's by age demographics. You can see that it's happening a lot of our young people, unfortunately. And then coming on in rural America. So again, that divide, and you can see it progressing with time from left to right to the bottom, intensifying in rural communities. And then death rate all in. So there, by all causes, there's a disparity between urban and rural communities. Also concerning is that the United States has started to break away from the rest of the developed world, the OECD world, by life expectancy. And you can see just further breakdown there, all G7 countries, and then the demographic breakdown. Whites have actually led the mortality adjustment upwards. And really broke down during the pandemic, of course, as you can see there. But whereas a lot of countries bounced coming out of the pandemic, the United States did not bounce. It's a little out of date. We've stabilized, but something is happening. And won't get into all this troubleshooting here. But this is a lot of my life's work, and we've been trying to solve for a lot of these different problems in rural communities, whether it's infrastructure, or just lack of investment, social issues, genuine resource depletion, business formation. All these things is what's kind of added up into that distressed communities index, and we're working on it. Now, the agricultural emergency, I guess, kind of related. We've had 100 years of pressure in our agricultural communities. In the most recent USDA economic census, 2022, it's a 5-year thing, and it takes a while to put out. So this is still relatively fresh. U.S. farms fell below 2 million for the first time since, Lincoln was down 10% in the last decade. This has happened while food spending has actually reached an all-time high. So we have a lot of food, economy's doing well, people are eating a lot, but farms continue to struggle. You eat food away from home, even in all this inflation, people are spending on food. But farmers are trapped by success in a kind of way. The more they produce, the lower prices. And this has been the story of the Industrial Revolution, so to speak. There's a lot of reasons we can't get into now, but I think this chart really speaks for itself. We've had consistently lower agricultural prices, even adjusted for inflation, as the world's population has increased. A lot of policies behind that, but a lot of technology. So productivity is the reason why. And we basically have the most productive humans in the field today. And thank our lucky stars for that. Unfortunately for them, they're not getting a lot of that farm dollar. So this is part of the problem. Farm production, 9.1 cents. The total farm share, 16 cents. and it just eats away. So how can we save farms and raise a new generation of farmers without raising food prices, right? That would be the simple fix. Oh, let's just raise food prices and it would fix farming. Of course, the rest of civilization couldn't stand for that. How are they staying in the game? Well, as folks who grew up know, we're hustling, we're innovative, and we adapt. We'll farm in the dirt with spoons if we have to, or more than likely, we're going to take that job. So off-farm work is huge. It's bigger than ever. This is I don't think it says here. This is USDA 2022 census data. So about 40% of farmers are working off the farm, right? And it's a feature in the entire United States. 93.2% of counties have, a third of their farm labor doing something else because they have to. If you can't go off the farm, maybe you can bring folks to the farm. So agritourism is one of these non-food solutions. Bring them out, and it's big business now, over $1 billion and growing at quite a nice clip. As you can see there, 12.7% versus 2017, the last census. How can you get more of that farm dollar? Go direct sales. Sell it all. Sell it to the person who's consuming it, right? Farm to table. And that's an order of magnitude bigger than agritourism, 17.5 billion, and growing at quite a nice clip too, above economic trend, 4.6%, a real annual growth rate. And a lot of it is coming from schools, institutions, retail outlets has been the majority of the growth. It also kind of depends on what business you're in. So be sensitive when you're buying different things, right? So tomatoes, folks growing field-grown tomatoes are getting more of that dollar. Strawberries, even more, almost half. I like strawberries. Something else, again, non-food sources of revenue is services. So farms have gotten bigger and bigger, and they need more and more help. And so there's been just an explosion of growth in support for agricultural production, both on and off the farm. Things like marketing, but also on-farm solutions. Of course, that's an expense. Part of this vicious circle. The last 100 years of agriculture, things are costing more and more, right? So labor's a huge chunk. Land is not free or cheap. Depending on what business you're in, your inputs are more or less. Electricity is a large cost depending on who you are. In Virginia, we have a lot of poultry, and that takes a lot of electricity. Overall, these are some dated charts, but I wanted to stick with USDA data. You can find private data that's better and more recent. But in general, like many things, energy consumption in agriculture has been increasing. We have a very energy-intensive agriculture system. You can see it here, again, dated, but the proportions are mostly holding true. We're using more natural gas, but at home, it's about 1/3 of all our energy is at home. But on farm and food processing and transit, we have tremendous energy sensitivity in agriculture. And again, though, it does depend, exactly what business you're in, what your inputs are, and you can get a good view of those right here. In Virginia, how did we do in the census? Really tracking with the national numbers, census to census. So less farms, slightly less acres, but they made more money, and the average size of farms did increase. And you can see, thanks to the Farm Bureau for putting the graphic together on the left, and the University of Virginia has some good data that you could probably Google for on the right. And agriculture, despite all the headwinds and crosswinds the last 100 years and all the data centers, and we've got offshore wind, and we've been a nuclear leader, and services and government, agriculture is still Virginia's #1 business. Pretty amazing. Again, Friends, University of Virginia gave us this chart, which shows one of the other concerning things, of course, and this is true in Virginia and beyond, is that our farmers are getting older. My uncles are older, and we've got to figure out how to hand off agribusiness to this next generation. A lot of folks are working on this. So it's same question again. How can we save farms and raise a new generation of farmers without raising food prices? And it's that virtuous cycle that I mentioned, or cycles. We need things that work. I've shown some of them. But of course, we're doing all these things, agritourism, direct farm sales, we're going organic, specialty, everything, and working off farm, and we're still losing ground. So still still troubleshooting and problem solving for our list. And I won't go through them all now. I know we're pressed for time, and we're going as fast as we can today. And hopefully, I'll see you at the Virginia Solar Summit, and we can dig even deeper. But what we needed to do, what we needed to do yesterday and probably tomorrow, certainly right now, is develop solutions for these problems in rural America. Right? For insufficient tax revenue, we need new tax revenue. We have poor infrastructure. We need money for new infrastructure. We don't have electricity. We don't have internet. We need those things. We have agribusiness exits. We need agribusiness entrance. Is there something that can do all these things? Yes, there's many things. One of them, you've probably guessed, agrivoltaics. Agrivoltaics can develop each of these goods depending on how it's done. Not traditional solar, but dual use solar, which I'll get to. But the idea, I think, is the opportunity is to, instead of rejecting this tsunami of potential rural investment out of hand, we should leverage it. We should ask it to take the form and figure that we would like, because we have these problems and we need solutions. And can we develop integrated opportunities? And I think that we can. We can plug that capital gap and spark this virtuous cycle again. So rural America has the land. Agriculture could use a boost. Solar developers need land. They have the capital to invest. And if we do agrivoltaics, it can be enabling for agriculture, which I'm going to get to. And in Virginia, maybe solar's in trouble, as we saw. And if it can step up and provide value to communities, then maybe it's the perfect marriage. So as I said, I call it dual use solar, a multifunctional development model able to leverage land development for solar energy to benefit agribusiness, local food systems, and enable economic development. Kind of waiting for the rains. This could be it. That's the Solar Farm Summit logo, by the way. But very simply, agrivoltaics is solar power production plus agricultural production, right? So reaching now the end of our roadmap, agrivoltaics answers this new AgPV playbook, and I'm going to get to the world tour as well. But what is agrivoltaics? Probably should have front-loaded the definition, but it's, this image anyway. Agrivoltaics can be anything. Agrivoltaics is agriculture. Agrivoltaics is agriculture plus photovoltaics in really any combination. Part of its secret sauce is the shade, is this diminishment of evapotranspiration, which I'll get into. But fun little graphic from the folks at NRAL. It can be large livestock, could be specialty crops, could be vertical. I think the future of solar fencing is very bright, but it could be just ecovoltaics, pollinator habitat, active fallow use, if you will. Fallow use that earns monies, shade that pays. The breakthrough American results were out of Biosphere 2, ironically enough, showing what is the superpower of the shade. Well, that evapotranspiration is tremendous, dramatic, substantial water savings. So out in the semi-arid climate of Arizona, they tripled the pepper yields using half the water. They doubled the tomatoes using 30% of the water, and the jalapenos just kind of hung in there. So you can grow things in the shade. And there it is. It's just a fixed tilt system. You can see the biosphere kind of in the back. And what they've really identified, and you can find this paper, Professor Greg Barron-Gafford, fleshing out this food energy water nexus. The power of these microclimates under the panels is worth a lot more than the kilowatts. In the summertime, it's cooling the plants, and it's actually keeping the panels cooler too, so that they produce more. And I didn't realize that most of our fruiting and vegetable plants, in fact, all plants, can get sunburnt too. And when they do, they use water. Even full sun plants like corn are not using 100% of the day's light. So we can all benefit from the shade, including mentioning quickly the ecovoltaics piece really works. So new-ish results, Argonne National Lab, 5-year study of Minnesota sites. After 5 years, they triple the insect population, and you can see 20x the bees. So if you plant the right things, native species, wildflowers, you can get results analogous to the CRP. That's the Conservation Resource Program. Love this headline from Bloomberg a couple years ago. Throwing shade is solar energy's new superpower. And farmers all over the world are figuring out how to bolt on this new on-farm implement that works just like anything else. That was Japan. How does it work? Again, it's the shade even under a fixed tilt system. This is courtesy, I think, of some research from Jack Solar Garden out in Colorado. And it's kind of like where you are, what is what you plant. And we've got a lot of great data on this. You can use trackers to smooth out that shade. This is in the research. This is my meta research. It really seems like tracking is a big differentiator. If we're talking about increasing yields, it's going to be a lot of these tracking systems that make it possible. But you can also space the panels. You can use semi-transparent panels. You can start to trade off in new and different ways. And I got to give a lot of credit to Fraunhofer Institute, which figured this all out, or first had the aha back in the 80s. And instead of this either or, we can do both and, double the harvest, so to speak, right? And Fraunhofer's doing things all over the world because you could take the system, of course, tremendous. If we're talking about electricity, protected open air greenhouse, and water conservation, that's a very powerful recipe all across the world that makes things puts things in the realm of feasibility for communities no matter where they are. All right, world tour time finally. Tresserre, France. I like wine. So this is what it looks like. This is a real vineyard in France, part of a study. Sun Agree. Sometimes I don't know how to pronounce things. They have these trackers. The 2024 harvest, Chardonnay plus 60%, plus 30%, plus 20% in these other varieties. That's what it looks like, kind of zooming out, right? Solar trellises, happy grapes underneath, cooler in the summer, more humidity, frost protection in the winter led to dramatic frost loss protection. And again, that water savings, they needed much less irrigation. My computer wants to restart. The Netherlands, again, 10 degrees cooler under the panels. Baywa, raspberries. Again, in the Netherlands, where I happen to get a degree, you may have seen. That's what it looks like. And so if you're in the fruit business, you may know you're replacing your polytunnels every 4 or 5 years, maybe less. And so this is a more permanent, durable infrastructure, again, that just happens to pay the bills. So it's shade and farm infrastructure that pays. Where it's heating up, like in southern Italy, they've had a lot of heat events. They're bringing actually fruit back under the panels, and you can Google for this story. Pretty amazing about what they're doing. With Cintron, they're going big in France with asparagus, not just the wine. In Israel, like Arizona, they don't have much water, and they are starting to maximize it. Tomatoes, vineyards, Israel is really leading the charge in agrivoltaics. A lot of folks, including the G7 Development Councils, getting excited about agrivoltaics for Africa. That I showed you that off-grid slide. But these are impressive corn results, very recent, where, again, corn, a full sun plant, but they managed to increase the yield. And you can find this study here. You can see, some of the results. It did change the cob weight, and they were shorter, but you can double the harvest. Pumpkins in Taiwan. They raised them up 30 feet over the hops in Germany. And this is a newer project, a massive, massive vegetable farm. They're going to be doing a lot of potatoes and chickpeas and wheat. So you can go between the rows. This is actually, there's a couple projects happening in the United States where here we've got a vertical setup, and we're maximizing for agriculture and kind of fitting in the solar. Because we really don't need that much land to produce all the clean power we need in Virginia. I think under the Clean Economy Act, which I didn't even want to mention in this call, but it's, somewhere between 120,000 acres, which really isn't. It's kind of a drop in the bucket. I think Virginia's 7 million acres in production. Okay, there's this fun map, agrisolareurope.org, where you can go click around and take a look at projects that have opted in to be on this map and see, some of these results for yourself. What about the other side of the world? Let's look at China. mostly a desert, right? 80% of China is arid climate or semi-arid or fully arid. But they have the largest agrivoltaics facilities in the world. They've grabbed onto this secret sauce, and they need it in China more than anyone else. Also because of the intense population pressure, the largest food market in the world, and this goji berry plantation in Ninghua is a gigawatt, and putting a lot of people to work and making a lot of berries, as you can see right there. Again, in Western China, let's go further west. This is the Gonghe Solar Farm, 2.2 gigawatts, and it's returning China's Western ranchers to a desertifying grasslands. This is zooming in a little bit, and you can see the Longyang Gorge Reservoir, one of the largest man-made reservoirs in the world. And to the west there is all desert. Was all desert. Here's what it looked like in 2012. Thanks to my team for pulling this together. You can maybe see the one little solar panel up there in the kind of middle left there. By 2013, they had expanded. By 2018, they were really on their way. And here we are more recently, a little out of focus. But the entire valley now is covered with solar panels, and that's kind of what it looks like. The grass is coming back, and they have working animals and shepherds making a living again in Western China. And before I leave China, I'll say you might have also heard recently they've ring fenced one of their deserts, the Taklamakan Desert, with trees and solar panels. And are they going to green the entire desert with solar panels? We'll see. Unlike trees, solar panels can keep moisture in the soil without using it. Elsewhere in the world, of course, a lot of our sheep, I think 70% of our sheep are coming from Australia and New Zealand, where this is also breaking out. They had their own kind of independent aha, and the technology is broken out in its own track almost in the agricultural community, and they found the 20% increase in wool quality. What's happening? Again, they're cooler under the panels, happier under the shade, just like you and I. We like to chill in the summer, and so do they. And these are the detailed results. You can see the farmer quote there. It's about microfiber and density and some other things. Find that if you're interested. University of Minnesota put some sensors on cows, and you can find this study again demonstrating the superpower of the shade. There's this incredible map, which you can find, the Inspire map, openai.org there, and you'll see it's actually happening at quite a large scale in the United States already, more than you might think. 6,500 acres, or does that say 65,000? Oh, it does. And over 10,000 megawatts. Mostly sheep, mostly bees, but the crops of pollinators, I should say. It's restoring a lot of prairie in the Midwest, but the crops are coming. You may have heard of sun-raised foods not too far away in North Carolina. So this is one of the trailblazers. They've been doing it for a long time, and they're doing other things besides the sheep. It's a real integrated farm. They're breeding dogs. They have a retail storefront. They host events, as you can see, and of course they don't have an energy bill, right? So they're harvesting their own electrons and insulated from inflation. Pretty powerful combination. The big money is getting into this too. Silicon Ranch, former subsidiary of Shell Oil, they have the largest breeding operation in the United States, the largest flock of I don't know how to say that sheep, and I don't want to butcher it. I'm not a sheep guy. But they have a lambing barn, ongoing research, and they've again figured out that these four-legged critters are cheaper than lawnmowers. By the way, restore the soil and all those things. Not to be left behind, Virginia. We have sheep too. Dominion Energy has had an awesome pilot program using folks like Gray's Landscaping here in recent years, and looks like they're going to be turning it up. And we're really excited about the program that's coming to the Virginia Solar Summit, because we're going to have an entire solar grazing track and solar grazing content every day, from the introductory up to the more advanced. Because again, as I hope we've seen by now, it really works, and we got to figure out how to scale it up. It's not just Gray's Landscaping. We've got James River Grazing. Others, it's happening. Other companies, AES, But Dominion, big shout out sponsor of the Virginia Solar Summit, and they've been certainly helping to drive the innovation forward in Virginia. They've got apiaries going here. This Black Bear Solar project you might have read about, and we'll have a session on ecovoltaics and a little bit about Black Bear at the summit as well. Not too far away in Massachusetts, leafy greens. Just want to flash some of the great stuff in the United States. There's a vertical fence on a vineyard in California. Jack Solo Garden, probably the best of the best in the United States. It's a real community garden, and they're doing all kinds of things. They're farming. It's a grandson who's taken over his grandfather's farm that was a hay operation and really diversified. They're doing vegetables, and they brought in the researchers and really scrappy and bootstrapped this. I guess maybe 5 years ago now, and leading a lot of great tours and pretty powerful testament to what's possible and beyond just the agricultural production, but been a nexus, on the community side, and it's powered kind of their agritourism. Byron Kominick there at the Solar Farm Summit in August, he'll be coming to speak about agritourism and how this can kind of all go together in that way. Pretty cool. You should check it out. And it's coming to Virginia. Hooray! Thanks to the Piedmont Environmental Council's breakthrough work feature session coming to the Virginia Solar Summit on this as well, including their farmer. We have a kind of a Jack Solar Garden that's coming to Aldi. So it's at their existing farm there, as you see. And we're going to start to grow under the panels ourselves in Virginia. Okay, we're running out of time, but turning to the end here, this seems so new and different. Like, can solar do so much? Yes, it can. It has been, as you know, the Virginia Solar Summit community. We started as a Brightfield conference. I'm not a solar guy. I got into solar because I saw somebody putting on mine lands and landfills that I did care about. And of course, you can't do anything else with a solar panel. And the good folks at the Nature Conservancy, they've gotten so proactive. Let's put our terms together and go shop for developers. Let's look around our region. Let's prioritize. Can we find places that we care about conservation wise that are also amenable to solar? Well, let's find those and develop them ourselves. Let's put our wish list together, and go find those places where the market agrees with us, and we can ask in our own RFP for our own list of community benefits and good neighbor agreements. And if you're tracking it all, you've probably seen it's been tremendously successful. This is just their first round. They just released another round. We probably should have updated the slides. Sun Tribe, the Nature Conservancy, and Dominion, different developer, but using solar to pay for conservation, that is a virtuous cycle. Can we do the same thing on what I call food shed development? Can we put the solar where we want to? Can we, instead of letting these solar developer vultures circle our communities, and we're on the defensive, can we go on offense? Can we be choosy? Can we put it next to our farmers market? Can we find the farmer on the edge of town who has a generational challenge, and maybe wants to go solar? And can we lean in for that? Yes, we can. We can use that brownfield playbook, and we can go to market with our own plan, and then maybe adjust from there. But the wall of solar money is out there, and we can leverage it. And that's really what this is all about: the power of proactive development. I'll read this: the solar land rush and the electricity gold rush is empowering local stakeholders, communities, and non-traditional development interests to implement alternative and integrated project models, putting the community first, conservation first, farmers and food first, etc. Really, whatever you want, within limits, market limits. You can find a lot more agrivoltaics resources on the Solar Farm Summit website, solarfarmsummit.com, or of course, go to virginiasolarsummit.com. We hope to see you at the 2025 Virginia Solar Summit. Again, co-hosted by Virginia Energy and ASGA, the American Solar Grazing Association, because we think this is the future. I think solar farms are about to become a true statement. It's solar farming, but farming plus solar can hopefully help us stack a lot of these solutions that we've been waiting for decades. It's not the only solution. It's not the every solution. certainly not. But if it's not this, we're going to wait for the next one. In your community, you don't have to listen to me. Make up your own mind. Um, I don't think solar should go on every rooftop. Not every roof is ready for rooftop solar, and not every community is ready for solar either. But be aware, of what that choice is and what's possible. Instead of just maybe saying no, think about how your community can benefit from this new super abundant model. All right, and I think I'll stop with that. I know I'm over time. Do we have any questions? No. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A. I'll hang on, but thanks. Appreciate y'all listening. Look, we still got a pretty good group. And we hope to see you at the 2025 Virginia Solar Summit. Oh, you're welcome, y'all. Appreciate you. Just a blitz. I got 1,000 slides. Future is bright, y'all. Oh, thanks. Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to do it. Dan at virginiasolarsummit.com will work as well, or Dan at solarfarmsummit.com. All right. Thanks, y'all. That's it.